This City Council meeting of June 2nd, 2025 is called to order at 6:30 p.m. We will begin with a moment for prayer or reflection. The City of Medicine Hat acknowledges that we live and work on treaty territory. The city pays respect to all Indigenous peoples and honors their past, present, and future. We recognize and respect their cultural heritages and relationships to the land. Adoption of previous council meeting minutes. Regular council minutes of May 20th, 2025. Any errors or omissions? Seeing none, the minutes of the May 20th, 2025 meeting are adopted. Adoption of the agenda. So the legal fees reimbursement is going to be postponed again while I meet a request for further information. And we want to move up the women's shelter issue, which is...
Mayor Clark, it's 11.4.
Thank you very much. 11.4. And where would you like to move that, Cassie? Just after the consent agenda?
Sure, that'd be great.
Okay. Are there any objections to those changes? Seeing none, we will adopt the agenda as amended. Council announcements. So I have an announcement. I guess it's an announcement. I just want to recognize the Medicine Hat Tigers. So they played yes. So I want to congratulate them on their second place finish at the Memorial Cup and their WHL championship. And most of all, I know it, you get to a final game and for the team and the players, it has got to be just the pits not to win. But from my perspective as mayor and councilors around this table and as community members, we are just so very proud of you. The way that you represented our city with humility, respect, and good sportsmanship, and some amazing hockey. And the excitement and joy that you brought to our community in your efforts, it was spectacular. You could feel the buzz in the community. And so I want you to know that from our perspective, you are champions and hometown heroes, and we just respect the heck out of you and are really proud of you. So thank you. Councillor Dumanowski.
Your Worship, I have two, if I may. I'll pause after the first one. I too would like to just add some comments. I'm not exactly known as Mr. Hockey. However, as a representative of the community around this table, I certainly have had a lot of people reach out, and on behalf of the City of Medicine Hat, as you indicated, Your Worship, I want to also extend heartfelt congratulations to the Medicine Hat Tigers on an incredible season. Winning the Western Hockey League Championship is a tremendous achievement, one that reflects their relentless dedication, teamwork, and the fighting spirit that has long been the pride of our community. Your performance at the Memorial Cup was nothing short of inspiring. You battled with heart, resilience, and pride, representing Medicine Hat on the national stage with class and courage. While the outcome may not have been the ultimate prize, your journey united us all, and you gave us unforgettable memories and showed the country the strength of this team and this city. To the players, coaches, staff, and everyone behind the scenes, and there are many behind the scenes, thank you for making all of us feel proud. You've ignited a spark in this community that will be carried on for years to come. And Your Worship, I do have another one. I'd like to take the opportunity to recognize our city manager. City managers work tirelessly in every community to ensure that the operation of that community and governance surrounded by their bosses, which is council, work smoothly. And our very own city manager has been recognized by the Canadian Association of Municipal Administrators for Long Service Recognition Award of 20 years. And the award is dedicated to honoring and celebrating members for public service and municipal management, which is a cornerstone, of course, for not only the association, but for every community. So this year they honored Ann Mitchell for a remarkable 20 years of service in municipal government. We've only had her here for a few years, but she's certainly been doing this a lot longer. And undoubtedly her contributions, of course, in every municipality she served, and proudly here advances our municipality and makes us better for who we are. So on behalf of myself, and I'm going to add council and the community, I want to congratulate you on 20 years of service to your role, and to thank you for being part of our community.
Councillor Hyder.
Thank you, Mayor Clark. Through the chair, I'd like to extend a tremendous thank you to the staff and under Managing Director Hutter for having and organizing a watch party with 3 minutes to handle that. So Lee, Aaron, and Trampus did a tremendous job. Great opportunity for the community to come out and get together and cheer on the Tigers. We had some councillor members and City Manager Mitchell up there directing hot dogs and pizza, so that was very formal, but just a great opportunity for the community to get involved and, like Councillor Dumanowski said, have that energy through our city. So thank you to the staff that were willing to do that for us, and we appreciate it.
All right. Next up, we have the consent agenda. Is there anything that anyone would like to pull from the consent agenda for discussion? Seeing none. Councillor Hyder?
I move that council adopts the consent agenda items as presented or as amended.
I'll second.
So they are as amended, or as presented.
As presented.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And we have a seconder, Councillor Dumanowski. Any discussion? We will vote, and I have been asked to leave the voting screen once we vote up for a couple, 3 exact seconds, so that it can be captured on the video. So we will vote. Councillor Sharps, are you online? Oh, she's not online. Okay, so. Okay. So that is unanimous. I think that's good. So legal fee reimbursement has been postponed. And so our first agenda item is 11.4, Medicine Hat Women's Shelter Society Capital Grant Request. We have with us Manager of Municipal Services Business Support, Jarrett Dickey, and Corporate Strategic Analyst, Candice Ersman, and they will be providing a presentation for council. Do you want to get the motion on the? No, probably not in this case. Okay, go ahead.
Good evening, members of council. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you tonight about the Medicine Hat Women's Shelter request for financial support for the Phoenix Safe House expansion project. This application is the first to flow through the recently created nonprofit capital grant request process that administration established earlier this year. I'll walk through the eligibility criteria as well as the evaluation criteria used to evaluate the applications administration receives from the community. The first evaluation step in the eligibility criteria of the application is first, they have to be a registered nonprofit organization or society. They have to reside or operate and serve the residents of Medicine Hat for at least 1 year, have an open membership and provide accessibility opportunities. They have a primarily municipal mandate to provide sports, recreation, arts, cultural, family, economic development, environmental, tourism, and/or community services. They must be in good financial standing, and they must not be involved in unresolved litigation or in arrears with the City of Medicine Hat. The next evaluation step or evaluation criteria is based on a scoring rubric. It's based on 4 evaluation areas. The first one being community need and benefit, which is weighted at 30%. The organization must demonstrate how the project will meet the demand or address a need or amenity for services within the community, enhance or meet changing needs within the community, include partnerships or any collaboration directly related to the project, i.e. is there community support, federal or municipal or provincial support, pardon me, create opportunity and program efficiencies, and provide accessibility, inclusivity, and/or equity to different demographics. The second criteria is strategic alignment. This is weighted at 25%. The organization must demonstrate alignment with City of Medicine Hat policies, plans, or programs. Additionally, alignment with any other professional association or government policies is beneficial. The third criteria is risk management, which is weighted at 20%. So the organization must demonstrate it can execute the project successfully. They've identified potential risks to the project as well as mitigation strategies. They have considered project alternatives and explained why the proposed project is the best option. The fourth criteria is financial and organizational sustainability, which is weighted at 25%. So the evaluation for this, the organization must demonstrate that they've secured 2/3 funding for the project. They must be financially viable through providing financial history as well as forecasts, including the capability to meet long-term operational requirements. And the last criteria is sustainability through a proven operational history and effective governance and practices. The application timelines. So back in November of 2024, the Medicine Hat Women's Shelter presented to council. They expressed interest in applying for the nonprofit capital grant program when the program became available. On January 30th, Medicine Hat Women's Shelter submitted an expression of interest, which is the first step in the process, requesting funding of $2.85 million to support their Phoenix Safe House expansion project. February 19th, the Nonprofit Capital Grant Program Review Committee determined that the Women's Shelter was eligible and they met the eligibility criteria. In that case, we requested additional information. On March 24th, the Women's Shelter submitted their full application along with supporting documents. On April 16th, the Internal Review Committee evaluated the application with no concerns identified. On May 2nd, the nonprofit committee met with the Women's Shelter to discuss the application and get more information and let them know that the item would proceed to council. I guess the point of highlighting the timelines is just identifying how efficient the new program that was developed is, just creating a more streamlined stage gate approach and evaluation criteria for these types of requests from the community. The Women's Shelter has collaborated with numerous community partners and secured funding from multiple sources to support the expansion project. Their total budget is $8.5 million. To date, the Women's Shelter has contributed funds from its reserve, received grant funding, which includes a $1 million grant from the Community Facility Enhancement Program, has fundraised over $1 million through efforts within the community. The remaining project costs are currently being financed through a CMHC loan, and any contribution from the City of Medicine Hat would reduce that loan amount, thereby lowering the associated interest and easing the organization's long-term financial burden. The table on the slide here illustrates the options. Obviously, cash flow in this case would come from reserves, foregone interest revenue, any ongoing operating costs of the municipality, and the potential tax impact to residents. So option one was a partial grant funding of $1.85 million. This is to recognize the $1 million CFIP grant that they received between us receiving the application and today. The pros of this application are it acknowledges some support from the city, but also recognizes that additional grant that was received. The result of this is the estimated annual tax rate impact of 0.09%, and this would result in foregone interest revenue or investment revenue of about $90,000. Option two is to grant the full request of $2.85 million. I guess this opportunity, or the pro of this, would be it supports an organization that provides important shelter and support services to our community. The result of this would be a permanent tax increase of 0.14% and would result in foregone interest revenue of about $138,000. It also commits the maximum amount allowable under our program criteria, which could raise expectations for future applications seeking support. Option three is council grants an amount that they deem appropriate. So the bookend of 0 and the maximum of 2.85 million. Council has discretion. This option allows council discretion and flexibility to grant amount that they deem appropriate based on budget constraints and other considerations. The con is any amount that exceeds the 2.85 million would be a departure from the program's intended purpose. And the last option, option four, would be to deny funding. This would obviously have the lowest financial impact to taxpayers and would require the Women's Shelter to utilize their full loan through CMHC and would place additional pressure on their operating budget due to interest expense and may affect the level of service the organization is able to provide to the community. After a funding recommendation is approved by council, administration will work to enter a one-time funding agreement through capital reserves to support the expansion of the Phoenix Safe House Emergency Shelter. The nonprofit capital group review committee will collaborate with the city solicitor's office to develop a grant agreement outlining the project oversight requirements with funding disbursements contingent upon the defined project milestones. With that, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to provide an update on the Women's Shelter and happy to answer any questions council may have.
Thank you very much. Any questions or comments? Councillor Hirsch? I guess just questions at this point.
Thanks, Mr. Dickey, for the presentation. I guess on page, well, it's 342 of the packet, but in your presentation, it shows each $1 million withdrawal from reserve results in a tax impact of 0.05%. So been here for a little while, and I remember, and I know it might be a bit, if you're saying from reserves as opposed to doing a tax increase, my understanding was it used to be 800,000, now it's 900,000 or whatever. It used to be a 1% increase to taxes. But in here, it says a 0.05. So is there a discrepancy there, or am I not understanding?
Thank you for the question through the chair to Councillor Hirsch. So that amount is the foregone interest. So if you take out $1 million, it would be about 48-ish thousand in annual investment revenue. That would be what the calculation is based on.
Okay, I guess the challenge is still, relatively speaking, it's taxpayers' money, but I'll accept that, thanks. How much is in the bucket for this nonprofit capital grant? Did we earmark a specific amount?
Thank you through the chair to Councillor Hirsch. The recommendation when we brought this forward was to not allocate a budget. In this case, this would be a budget amendment. So any large-scale capital requests from the community would be brought forward independent of each other through a budget amendment process.
Okay. And that, yeah, the third one was it budgeted, but it sounds like it's not.
City Manager Mitchell?
Thank you. Through the chair to Councillor Hirsch. We did have a discussion about that, but we didn't come to a determination because I believe the budget process had already been completed, but it is something that we really should look at so that we do have a set fund amount.
Yeah, and I guess maybe to this, and I guess where I'm struggling a little bit is, and I absolutely love every nonprofit in the city, Medicine Hat, but there's many of them. And the challenge is, as you know, if we start funding this with no budget, no timelines, or not timelines for sure, but with no kind of cap on it, I don't know what that looks like, and we're not prepared for it. It's not budgeted. So then, from a taxpayer point of view, it almost feels like an open check. So I think we just need to. I just need to kind of digest this a little bit as we kind of walk through this and have more discussion with other councillors, but thank you.
Councillor Sharps?
Thank you, and through the chair, apologies for being late, but I drove as fast as I could, so sorry about that. I did have a couple of questions. One, so when we started this program, so one is about the whole context of the program and the value of it. So I read all your notes, and it makes a lot of sense to me. I guess when I'm sitting up in the stands or I rewatch the meeting, what is the difference to our taxpayer and to council whether the women's shelter came down here and asked for the money directly versus city staff doing this? Because all I see is still the recommendation versus the ask, and I think this actually aligns with the original ask. So what would be the big difference of using this program?
Through the chair to Councillor Sharp. So thanks, that's a great question. I think the program was established to vet and kind of just go through those criteria that I mentioned earlier in the presentation, make sure that they're a nonprofit, that type of thing. And then obviously the scoring, there are criteria within the evaluation. Where there's a go, no go. If they're not financially sustainable, then it stops and we have conversations with that organization. So to your point, the difference is we've vetted it to make sure that if we did give them money, they're not going to come around and say, we need more money, or we're not able to continue our operation.
Okay, so it makes, if I'm completely understanding then, what we're saying is we want to see a solid financial performance from anybody that we're giving money to. Okay, just thought I'd clarify that.
That's one of the criteria.
Oh,
for sure.
okay, okay.
That's not the only criteria, but
Understood.
that is one of them. Yes.
Okay. Why not a solid recommendation from administration? Why the 3?
Great question through the chair to Councillor Sharps. We felt it was prudent that council make that determination. We've provided information as far as the bookends, like I mentioned. The maximum allowable under the program would be the 2.85 million, which is 1/3 of the project, and then obviously 0. So it's up to council to make that determination from
So
an
we'll-
affordability perspective.
Sorry, I apologies. So will we kind of expect to see that going forward? There'll be like 4 suggestions on all non-capital or capital grant applications?
Thank you, and through the chair, that's a good question. This is our first kick at the can here. So frankly, we are using this as a bit of a litmus test to see what council's feelings are towards that procedure.
Okay.
If it's something that council's comfortable with, then we would continue that way. If not, we could certainly have a hard dollar figure recommendation the next time we bring one forward.
Okay. I do recall the conversations about, and I'm with Councillor Hirsch on this, budget is kind of a big number to me. However, this also was in front of us in November, so much like Stampede and, you know, everything else that came in front of us, those numbers are in the back of our heads, and I understand that. How much do we have, or how many are in the backlog to come in front of council under these programs? And if you had to put a number to it, what would that look like?
To my knowledge, thank you through the chair. To my knowledge, right now we do have one that's primarily a land donation in the large stream, and then we also have a couple in the smaller stream that have gone forward. So in the smaller stream, it's an administrative decision, but the other large stream capital request will be coming forward in likely the next couple months. I believe we just received their final application.
Thank you. And then I had one last question, but it's actually from someone from the board or from the executive director, or for the executive director. And I'll wait till Natasha comes down. I just want to make sure I have factual information here. Thank you. Sorry to ask you to come down. So my question is this. So when we talk about, we've been going through lots with the mustard seed and different shelters, and one of the things, and again, this is not my forte, so I just want to make sure I have the factual information. Are you the only shelter that has accommodation for children?
Yeah, that's correct. The mustard seed is unable to accept children.
Okay. Thank you.
Does that answer that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was, well, it's kind of a biggie to me,
Yeah.
because I didn't actually realize that until I was talking to the mustard seed, and I didn't realize that.
Yeah, we do get a lot of people who are actually, sorry, through the chair, we do
Please.
get a lot of children, people who who come to our shelter who are not necessarily fleeing family violence, but because they have children, they're not able to go to the mustard seed or those kind of shelters, so they come to us, and we do take them in if we have the space, absolutely, we would.
And you are the only facility?
Yeah, we're the only two shelters as in the mustard seed right now. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that.
for sure.
Helps me. I appreciate it.
Counselor Robbins?
Yes, thank you, and through the chair, thank you for the presentation. Hello, Natasha. I don't have questions for you, you can go sit. When we first started on council, we had the curling club and the Stampede come very quickly, and then, that sounded judgy of them. It just happened quickly, and early on in our term, not that they ran down here or anything, I wasn't suggesting that, but we had those two things, and then we had a land donation request from Medicine Community Housing Society. And it was during those conversations around table that I started to sort of have this idea that maybe we should have a better structure on how we actually do these things. And so, as you know, I made the notice of motion to come up with some sort of system like this so we could make decisions in a reasonable, fact-driven way and not in the emotion of everything, like Councillor Hirsch says, everything is worthwhile, but this is taxpayer dollars and we have to be really thoughtful about it. So I'm very grateful to see, and so what made me think that is that I found that the staff was asking a lot of questions, like to the curling club and to Stampede, that weren't, weren't formalized, but they were asking really good questions, and the answers to them were critical to the decisions I made. So I'm really grateful to see this, and I appreciate the women's shelter being the guinea pig of this entire program. I'm really grateful to see how this has flowed through exactly in the way that I had hoped it would. I remember the conversation, I clicked my button because I remember the conversation we had when we're approving this about putting a budget number on it, and the concern is that then we're stuck with that number for good or for bad. If the city has a tremendous boom of a year, then we're saying that's the cap and we're not going to spend any more. And also if the city doesn't have a great year or a series of great years, that we're then also stuck with an expectation that the budget is there. And so I think the idea of doing it one at a time, it does involve a budget amendment, but we can't budget for every nonprofit's needs. The other thing that I thought when proposing it was we have our municipality, like every other municipality in the province, and then we have a business side. And it's always been interesting to me at this horseshoe to kind of grapple how the business side supports the community outside of contributing to the operating funds of the city. What else does that business side do that contributes directly to the lives of the citizens? And so I think we're just such a unique position that we do have funds that come from business and not always from tax to sort of, or we have funds that have been collected over many years that belong to the citizens of Medicine Hat that are now in reserves, and so we get the benefit of that as well. And so is the best use of those reserves just lowering, costs, or is the best use of those reserves to contribute to the community in some other meaningful way that the community can't contribute itself? Or we've kind of, as the Women's Shelter, they're great fundraisers, but maybe they've tapped out as far as they can really get on their own. And so well, there's not really a question coming out of that, Manager Dickey, I apologize, but except my gratitude for sort of taking what I had in my mind and putting it down on paper and then following through. It's very helpful to me to think that any big decision like that is going to have some structure behind it. So thank you for all your work.
Thank you.
Councillor
If I can just add,
Oh,
just
yes.
back to when we brought this program forward, we did that municipal scan, and all of those things were taken into account, and I think we scanned 9 municipalities, and so we tried to make a program that was a made in Medicine Hat solution that would allow council with the ability to make those decisions. And there are municipalities that do set aside a budget, and there are others that do not. And so we felt it was prudent to bring that option forward as the program rolled out.
Councillor Dumanowski.
Thank you, through the chair. So a quick background point, and then it will have a question attached to it, so I promise you that. So recognizing some of the internal, external engagement pieces here, kind of building on Councillor Sharp's question around access to this type of facility in Medicine Hat. Some of the background information indicates that the women's shelter is the only shelter that accepts children under age of 12 with access to supports 24/7, case management, etc. There are other shelters in southern Alberta, including Brooks, Tabor, and Lethbridge. But these shelters, our shelter, the women's shelter, is the only one that offers full spectrum of services, including a second stage shelter. So it goes on to indicate in 2023-24, the women's shelter served 1,141 individuals, 90% of whom are residents of Medicine Hat. So my kind of tied to the funding component, and so obviously there's a CFIP grant that's been put forward towards this total. There's obviously the nonprofit capital grant before us tonight. I'm trying to understand, and I guess in my mind's eye, adjudicate for those who might be asking, if we are the only one in our zone, and it does say that at least 10% come from outside of our community, including Lethbridge, it seems, are there any additional efforts to, and if that's being done, quietly or behind the scenes, certainly just dismiss my question, but are there efforts to have other shelters who don't have the second stage component that we have, Brooks, Tabor, and Lethbridge, are there efforts to have them be contributing partners to this capital goal, since it seems to me from the background information are benefactors of it?
Yeah, thank you through the chair to Councillor Dumanowski. In the application, the full application that we received from the Women's Shelter, there is a funding breakdown. They did receive some funding from Cypress County, and then now obviously the capital fundraising efforts through the community. So that's, unless Natasha would like to disclose other funding sources that they have.
Just before you speak, Natasha, thank you for coming down. I didn't expect that, but if it's something you're doing quietly behind the scenes, certainly you can just politely say, we're working on some things and we'll move forward. But I was just curious based on that background information.
I through the chair to Councillor Dumanowski, I just want to separate the two things. The fact that we have a second stage and we're the only second stage south of Calgary does mean that we're really busy, and that is part of our continuum of services. But the capital campaign and the capital grant and what we're asking for is to renovate and expand Phoenix Safe House, which is our emergency shelter. So just to separate those two pieces, I just want to be clear about that, if that's sort of what you were implying about that. We do see quite a big catchment of people coming in from different areas, for sure. But like you said, the bulk of people who do access our services at the emergency shelter are Medicine Hat residents.
Thank you.
Okay. My questions are with respect to the different options. Is it the case when I'm reading the briefing note, to me, it sounds like they did get some extra money between when the request came to us and now, and that as far as administration is aware, there's no risk of the project not being completed or the women's shelter shutting down regardless of what we do here.
That's correct, yeah.
Okay. So, for example, in the no money option, it talks about a CMHC loan that the women's shelter would be required to utilize to cover the remaining capital costs. I understand what a loan is, but I'm just wondering, is that a loan that they already have and are already paying back? Is that they would have to access additional funding from that loan? If you could just explain that a little bit.
Yeah, through the chair to the chair, I guess. Yeah, so the financial project, the details, obviously, regardless of that additional funding that they received, that $1 million through CFIP, they would still be eligible for the 2.85 million under our program criteria because it's still 1/3 of the project costs. With regards to the balance of funds that they would need to borrow, they according to the application, they have a CMHC loan that they've applied for. Obviously, if any amount that they receive from the city would lower that amount that they would need to get from them.
Can you explain the 1/3 thing again? So even if they don't need the money anymore, they're still eligible to get 1/3, regardless of whether it's required under our current system.
Correct. So the criteria is they have to have secured 2/3 of the funding for their project. And so before that grant was received, they had secured the loan. And so that was part of their 2/3 contribution to the project.
Okay. I also have some comments about the process or the operating grant process, but I think those should be left for a different discussion because we're working here based on the 4 options that we have. I know that there's no official recommendation in the briefing note and you wanted to give council flexibility, but I'm wondering if you could provide a recommendation, what that would be.
Thank you, and through the chair to Mayor Clark. We went back and forth on this quite a bit, and frankly, it was my decision to go forward with the 4 options. I felt like our group's purpose was to vet these applications and to provide council with as much objective information as possible for you guys to make a informed decision, a data-driven decision. I didn't feel like it was necessarily our purpose to make a social determination, put a dollar figure to the value of the women's shelter. Now that you're asking me to do that formally, I would say to go forward with the 1.85. I do feel like, in light of the women's shelter receiving that $1 million that wasn't originally budgeted for, I do think that should be reflected. They were the first application that we've received, to be frank, but I did think it was a very, very strong application. They were very easy to work with, answered every question that we had in excess of what we asked. Great to work with. I would have to imagine that they'll be a strong performer in this grant program, down the road, even with some other applications. So if it's solely based on the criteria that we put together, I would recommend the maximum amount with consideration for the additional $1 million CFEP contribution.
Thank you. I guess what's coming up for me, and I am a big supporter of the women's shelter, as we all are, I'm sure. If this is intended to be this is not our area of jurisdiction. We're a municipality. This is not our area of jurisdiction. So there are probably going to be more and more of these requests. But perhaps there might be situations where the money is the difference between the nonprofit closing and the nonprofit existing in our community. And so I guess I'm struggling, and again, this is the first time we've used this process, of whether that should have some impact on the determination, and was that considered in your discussions at all?
Yeah, certainly that is one of the criteria, is the going concern of the organization. And obviously, if that service would then default to a municipal responsibility, that's definitely something that the review committee considers when we're evaluating applications. And that's a risk, right? If we don't provide funding and then they can't offer the service, then by default, the municipality may, in some cases, have to step in and provide that service. And so that's definitely something that we need to consider, and whether to offer that financial support to support that organization.
Councillor Robbins.
I'd like to make a motion, if I might. I move that council grant the capital grant application of the Medicinet Women's Shelter Society in support of the Phoenix Safe House Emergency Shelter Expansion Project in the amount of $1,850,000.
I'll second that.
Could I ask for a slight clarification? Can we take capital reserve off and just put from
Reserves.
Because it would be not our capital in the end?
Okay,
It
thank
helps
you very
me.
much for that clarification. Are you okay with that?
Thank you.
Okay. And you would like to speak to your motion? Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much. I would like to speak to my motion. I think there's a quote, and I couldn't quite find it, but the measure of society is how it treats its most vulnerable. I think I'm getting close to what that actual quote is, not exactly right. I'm in a unique position because I'm sort of, I'm aware of all pieces of the shelter, looking up some people out there known for a long time. A lot of their programs are sort of align with justice in our community in different ways, support of victims of crime, of course, and all of that. And as I've said many times, my mother worked at the shelter as a volunteer for many years, so I know the brain of the shelter and the creativity of their fundraising, and I kind of know I feel like I know the heart of the shelter as well. I know that early on we were asked to consider about curling, whether the sport and mental health of people who were involved in curling was important to the City of Medicine Hat, and we all thought that it was, and funded that. And I think in the same sort of mindset, this is important to the City of Medicine Hat. I do appreciate the fact that the province provided the CFEP grant that was sort of, I think, not anticipated, and when it happened, I was delighted for the shelter. And I think that does reduce the amount, I think it should reduce the amount, because that's all the same taxpayer, so that's sort of why I've suggested the 1.85 as opposed to the 2.85, is because of the CFEP grant, because it is, like, again, the same taxpayer of those two amounts. But obviously, I made the motion, I do support the motion, and I thank the shelter for going through this process.
Councillor Van Dyke?
Thank you, through the chair. Just a couple of comments. I want to thank the administrative staff for developing this framework as requested by Councillor Robbins. And as Councillor Hirsch had said, I think we're going to be seeing increasing demand for this in our community. I also want to thank the Medicine Hat Women's Shelter for the work that they do. It's difficult work, and unfortunately the need for it has been ever increasing. And I wish that we as a society could figure out a way to reduce that need. But in the meantime, we have to rise to the occasion to provide the services in the community. And I did want to make one other comment, in that, well, I'm thankful that the province has provided the $1 million through the Community Facility Enhancement Program grant. I'm disappointed that they haven't seen fit to provide additional one-time funding for this project, particularly as housing, shelters, and social services are the responsibility of the provincial government. Thank you.
Councillor Sharps?
Thank you. So I am going to support this, and primarily because I look at it very much like a business, and that is when a business has good financial success and they're doing all the right things and they're investing in themselves and they're able to get loans, those are the partners that I want to help when they've got their hand out. The ones that come to us flat broke with nothing in their pocket is not that doesn't get me all inspired to reach out. If you've been around for 50 years and you don't have any money and you have nothing to show for it, that's not necessarily good business. Not that you're in a business up there, but it's reality. It's just a part where we are. When I look at these numbers and when I read this, I'll be honest, I would have absolutely gone for the 2.85, and primarily because they've, in my understanding, and I've watched council for years, they've never come to us and asked for this kind of, or for money. And so for them to come because they had to expand because of what our society is going through, I was happy to support that. I also know that there's women in Medicine Hat, when we talk about the 90%, there's women in Medicine Hat, and Executive Director can correct me if I'm wrong, that actually have to go to other shelters. So our numbers might reflect 90% here, but there's women here that go to other shelters. So it's not all even, and this is 90% and 10% is foreign. Is that incorrect? Correct, okay. So I think it probably is a bit of a wash. And I respect that the fact that they've done everything right. I've seen them out campaigning. They're hard-nosed, like these guys go at it. And so they have got a lot to be proud of. They haven't stopped. And I want to make sure, from me as a councillor, I say, let's always support the ones that are working just as hard as us to try to get this. So I will 100% support this.
Councillor Dumanowski?
Yeah, through the chair, I appreciate all the background information at committee level. When we had the presentation, I did indicate I would look forward to hearing from other council members around their thoughts and considerations around the funding requests. Like others have said, giving the full amount would be nice. We have other competing factors, and not to suggest that the other competing factors have any self-determined outcome or predetermined outcome. But when I look at our council-approved 2025 budget amendments thus far, we're already at 0.7%. And so we have a few months left in the year, never mind the budget cycle. And so I think it's prudent that we manage and be good stewards of the public purse. This is, as has been indicated, a great effort on the part of a group, the Medicine Hat Women's Shelter Society Capital request, obviously, and the Phoenix Safe House to contribute to an incredible cause. There will be other great causes. Actually, Councillor Sharp, you stole one of the points I was going to make. In the years I've sat around here, every year they come and make this incredible presentation around their activation in this community, their stewardship of the monies that are always finite that they work with, and they're incredibly resilient. And I can't consciously recall any other requests they've ever made. And to build on Councillor Robbins' point too, around the vulnerable portions of our society, we do have a duty. And I think the relationship with different sectors has evolved and is evolving. The idea of pushing or pointing it to another level of government will always be not necessarily unreasonable, but it will not result in the kind of broader effort that I think we have to participate in our communities and our society. And this is one, when I think of other very different vulnerable sectors, I think of additional operating costs that we've consciously contributed to in order to contribute to a social end that benefits this community. And this is different, but it will contribute in a very meaningful way to a social end that that will never cease to exist. So I'm proud and honored to contribute my vote to the efforts today for the option one. Thank you.
Councillor Hirsch?
I just kind of want to speak to at a 100,000-foot level with the capital program. We talked about cap or no cap. I absolutely feel it's paramount that we have a cap. I have no idea what applications are coming in. In fact, I'll point to on page 343, and actually before I go down that road, what did we plan in the next few years for budget increases right now, for tax increases?
Managing Director Campbell, do you have that off the top of your head?
I apologize for the spot, but
I don't have it off the top of my head, but I can try and look it up.
so even if
Thank
it's
you.
4 or 5%, whatever that number is, so that's in our face right now. And then on page 343, you talk about with additional amendments forthcoming throughout the remainder of this year, the overall tax impact could increase by a further 3.8 to 10.7%, subject to council approval. So at the end of the day, I don't know what lies ahead. We know really of a little bit of a guiding point that it might be between, if we take the 5% plus the 3.8, we're looking at taxpayer increase of 8.8, or worst case scenario, it would be 10.7 plus the 5%, 15.7%. I don't know about you guys, but come budget time, and believe me, my heart is breaking over this, but the reason I feel like we need to have a hard cap is that we can budget it. That everyone knows right across the table, year over year, and if that budget's reached in that year, that group, okay, there's next year funding. And same thing, you could use the metrics that you do to say, okay, here's where the willingness, and this is why it's in the community's best interest to fund that. Not a problem. I mean, I was part of a social group that we gave millions of dollars out in this community, and we talked about the community's best needs, and that's kind of what has to be a driver here as well.
Just to answer your question.
Yeah.
Through the chair to Councillor Hirsch, it's 5.6% in the budget highlights that we published online.
Okay, thank you.
But you are correct, the table within the report is outlining a potential range.
Yeah, thanks. So I guess when we talk about we don't know if we're gonna have a good year or a bad year, welcome to the world of budgeting. And the challenge is you could actually, at budget time, set your cap for next year, saying, okay, this is what we're up against, this is the amount of money, or we could raise it up, we could raise it down. I've been on many different committees in this community as well, not just this one that talks about funding as well, and we did the same thing. Depending on our fortunes in terms of how the investments did, we would fund appropriately, and I think you know which group I'm talking about. So I think we definitely can have a cap on this. I'm sorry, I gotta raise the taxpayer hand on this and say, at what point do we say enough? I wasn't really a big fan on the capital as well, and the operating, because at the end of the day, the citizens that live in this community that feel the value of the contribution of the nonprofit doesn't need the city of Medicine Hat to be the go-between. You have no problem to get out a check, and I've done it in the past, and write a check to that organization to fund it directly and support it, and I still plan on doing it going forward. The challenge I have, though, is you've got citizens that are hurting in this community. Taxes is always on the rise. I already quoted the number, but yet we are the people writing the checks on behalf of them, and they're going, enough. And I don't know what is gonna be enough. It scares me when I read this number, 3.8. So I appreciate the fact that unfortunately an organization that is near and dear to my heart is here as the guinea pig, because it does break my heart, but I struggle. I think we need to really work on this capital program to build some fence around it. And I feel like in some ways, if anything, we could tie it to the fundraising in this case, so it's 1.1 million. Maybe we match dollar for dollar or something to that effect. So I would support maybe 1.1 because the fundraising efforts has been, I actually want to tip my cap and appreciate the efforts, and it should be rewarded in that regard, because there's some in the community that maybe just don't fundraise and think that we're just going to be writing the golden check, and I'm not a fan of that either. And I think that's where I will stay at, is 1.1. We've had other groups, and I know there's people in this room that came to this city council, got denied for funding, and they were a very worthy organization as well. So I don't know how we pick the winners from the losers. That's the problem. And in fact, that organization got defunded, and they're no longer in part of this community. So when you talk about, you know, what are the metrics towards that, that's the struggle I have. I know, based on the information provided, Medicine Hat Women's Shelter will be there. It will be a little bit of strain. They're gonna get a loan, et cetera. I get that part. But I think my cap has to be, and again, because I just love that organization so much, I will support up to 1.1 to match it, but anything past that I can't support. And again, it's got nothing to do with the organization. I look at the bigger picture in terms of what's ahead of us, and I guess we'll chat at budget time, because the writing's gonna be on the wall then. Thanks.
Councillor Hirsch, if I may just clarify, you said up to 1.1. I just want to clarify that 1.8 is what is in the motion. So if you wanted to make a motion to amend the number, you could do so. Councillor Hyder, did you want to follow up?
The only concern I have, I don't know, I heard other people saying they're in favor of it. I, in principle, just can't support it. I think if the number suggests that it's there, then at 1.8, then I don't want to be the guy to lower it to 1.1. When people, I don't know if there's a majority here or not, but I mean, can we make if that vote, anyway, I guess we can do what we want.
Yep,
So.
if that vote does fail, you can always put forward another
thanks.
motion. Councillor Hyder?
Thank you, Mayor Clark, and through the chair. Executive Director Natasha Carvalho, can you come to the mic for me? You could have just stayed there, Natasha. A couple comments, first of all. You've been leading this charge for many years, and like Councillor Hirsch says, you've got some strong supporters around this table. You do remarkable work here in your team, and it is sad that we are expanding an organization like that because of the world we live in. But, I mean, 42 years of history, this women's shelter has been part of this community, which is a testament to many things. And I would say lastly would be you and what you do, and you're an advocate. So I applaud you, my friend. Like Councillor Robbins says, you live in a community and you have to support, it's not have to, there's a need to support all walks of life and all things in it. I, like Councillor Hirsch, to wrestle with the monetary thing, but I will support the 1.85. I believe in you and I believe in what you do. You've always been a class act and you always are very professional and you have such decorum when it comes to how you operate that place, how you leave women. Women have dignity when they're there. It's truly from my heart. One thing I'd like to add, as well as Councillor Hirsch, I do believe we need to have some sort of mechanism with the capital grant program, whether it's the cap is 500,000 or whatever. There has to be a ceiling, I feel, and I know this is all new to us, like it is the guinea pig, but I do feel that that is something we should look into and with the mechanisms of the grant application. But I just wanted to say thank you for what you do, Natasha, and thank you for your patience. And from what staff have said, the application was great. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Harder.
Did you have a question for Ms. Carvello?
No, I just wanted to recognize her.
Okay.
Sorry.
It's fine.
Yeesh. I don't see any other further speakers. I couldn't agree with Councillor Hirsch more on the need to really put some boundaries around this. I think that having a program implies that we have money for the program, and that we will get, like, we're open for capital grant applications or operating grant applications, and maybe we don't have the money. And so having a fund that could accumulate interest if, you know, if we keep money in that fund, and, you know, we would obviously be spending from that fund, but while we have it, we can still earn interest off of it. I recognize that this was the first kind of foray into this, and I don't want to punish Medicine Hat Women's Shelter for, you know, these were the expectations we had laid out, and they followed them. And so before we see another application, though, I think we have to have a really frank conversation about money and what is in our scope of, like, what things should we be funding and what things would it be nice to fund or we want to fund, but we can't afford to do it anymore. I have a couple of more questions. One was the difference between, so we're losing investment earnings, and that accounts for the ongoing tax increase. What is the impact of just the lump sum payment? Is that presumably will impact what is left in our reserves, but does that mean, you know, maybe it's a year longer before we reach our goal of having a balanced budget or something like that? Can you comment on that at all?
Yeah, so, yeah, the tax impact just reflects the lost investment earnings. The budget gap would be another discussion, obviously, that compounds or pushes out the time frame to balance the municipal budget. I can't remember or recall the exact time frame that was in the budget presentation.
Yeah, I could add on that through the chair to Mayor Clark. I believe the reserve presentation that Director Barta provided at last Monday's open committee of the whole gives a good reflection on the 11.1 million gap forecasted to be 14.1 million. Really, essentially, whether we create a separate reserve for it or we use our current reserve, in the end, it all adds to the lost investment revenue. There's a budget gap, a strategy that we need to address, and I believe it got moved out a year to 2028. There's also a reserve strategy that we should be looking at to replenish both that and the interest that we use. My only other comment would be related to how do we cap? Like, at what point does council decide we're only able to fund the first 4 or 5 applications because they were larger in dollars. I think municipalities struggle with that concept of when have we run out or what are the right projects to fund. So it's something we could take back and look at. I think the benchmarking that was done previous to my tenure was around some municipalities do and some don't. In the end, sometimes they do come down to individual decisions at the time. Creating a budget for it, as Councillor Hirsch had noted, isn't always meaning that you'll have that stabilized amount for next year. And with your budget approvals every 2 years, you'd want to really keep an eye on, is it a good year or a bad year, as you're referencing to, before we have an amount in the budget that we're committing to as well. So it's a bit of both. I think what we can do is create a running total of what these grants have been providing so far as we bring them. It's just difficult putting a group being the 5th one on the list, and whether there's a pot aside or not, that fiscal responsibility sits with council, so I understand your struggle.
I think one option would be to just have an open period, so maybe like an intake twice a year, so that it wasn't just first come, first serve, because that is tricky, and I don't think that's necessarily the best way to make decisions about. Managing Director Hutter.
Thank you, and through the chair, I just wanted to say I appreciate all the feedback here. We are trying a few new things, such as the potential budget amendment list here to provide council with a bit of a better picture of the compounding effects of budget amendments. But I did want to say that when we released this grant program, we were a little bit worried that we would essentially be soliciting applications, like you had mentioned, look at all the money we have, please apply for this money. But I think I know certainly comms put in a strong effort to word the news release in a way that shows that, hey, we're just trying to create procedural fairness. But council will remember that there was that notice of motion for the operating side of this grant. And something that we are, really considering is when we do go forward with that to council, that there will be a budget likely recommended for that. I know Councillor Robbins had some good ideas about possibly even creating like a reserve fund to create interest to fund that particular grant. There's certain things like that we can look at, but I certainly do share the feeling that there will need to eventually be a budget for this program, and especially for the operating program. We've had the 4 applications formally, and we do have one that's likely coming forward. So that's almost 1 per month since this grant program has been released. So certainly going to see more and more of them coming forward.
Thank you very much. My final question was, is it necessary for us to give the 1.85 million as a lump sum payment rather than perhaps, because then we could potentially keep the money longer and mitigate some of our investment revenue losses? So I'm just wondering if any of those discussions happened.
Through the chair, we have not entered any of those types of discussions. That would be through when we do the formal funding agreement, what those terms and conditions would look like, and that's something we could definitely explore.
Okay, thank you very much. So we will vote, and I just want to make clear that I really struggle with the municipality having to step up and fund things that maybe ought to come from other levels of government. And the financial state of the city is, we, at least from, what's been said, is a bit, it's an uncomfortable situation right now. Certainly when we set targets of when we want our budget balanced, we should make them reasonable targets, and we should definitely know when we're making a decision that's going to put our targets, make our targets unachievable. However, in this case, this was the process that was put to the Medicine Hat Women's Shelter. And there's just no question that the organization and the work that they do is, invaluable to our community. And so that is never in question. But I appreciate that they did go through the process that we had. And it sounds like we're very cooperative through the process, and it has allowed us to maybe figure out maybe some of the tweaks that need to be done to the program. So in this case, I will support the request, or the motion, rather. Any further speakers? Seeing none, we'll vote on the motion. And that passes. 3 seconds feels long. Next, thank you very much, Mr. Dickey, Manager Dickey. And thank you to everyone who came from the women's shelter to show their support. Next up, we have, yes, thank you. Next up, we have another important contributing organization to our community, which is the Unison group and their Unison annual report and Viner Center 50th anniversary. And we have 3 guests, or maybe more, you can let us know, 3 guests with us. Larry Matheson, CEO and President of Unison Society. Corey Fisher, Director of Unison at the Viner Center. And Gord Knott, Medicine Hat Director of the Unison Board of Directors. And they have a presentation for us. This presentation is for information only. Go ahead, Corey.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. We really appreciate the opportunity to come out and share this wonderful information. We have completed our first 3-year contract, and we would love to extend our thanks for extending that contract for an additional 3 years. I would also like to acknowledge that we are celebrating Seniors Week starting today, and so we thought this would be a wonderful opportunity to give you an update on the last 3 years, where we're going, and some of the wonderful things that are happening down at Unison at Viner Center. When we were awarded the contract and we took over operations in September of 2021, one of our main focuses was to ensure that we were maintaining the integrity of the existing programming that was happening down at the Viner Center. We wanted to ensure that all current recreation and fitness classes were available to the members, and we were grateful to accept any volunteers who were interested in supporting us and the Viner Center moving forward. We reached out to the employees from the City of Medicine Hat, as well as our membership, to determine what educational presentations we could bring in for our members to attend. And we ensured the bistro was open and offering healthy, affordable, quality food. But most importantly, we ensured that the Meals on Wheels program continued to operate with absolutely zero disruption in services. So I'm very pleased to say that through marketing and promotion and great word of mouth within the community, we have been steadily able to increase our membership numbers back to pre-flood numbers. We continue to offer a wide variety of recreation activities, fitness classes, educational workshops, drop-in activities, and events for all age brackets 50 plus, and for all age brackets and interests to continue to increase our membership numbers. To ensure everyone has access to the center, we offer subsidies for our low-resourced older adults in memberships, as well as activity registration fees. But of course, we continue to offer most of our activities free of charge. We organize many education sessions, workshops on a variety of topics, including scams, financial planning, health and wellness, mental health, safety, and any other topic members expressed interest in. We've expanded the various recreation activities both weekly and monthly, as well as our fitness activities, as you can see by the slide. Some of the new activities that we've had requested include ukulele lessons, hearts. We have a jam session every Thursday morning if you want to come down and rock out with us. Kaiser, we have a Stitch and Laugh group now. Scrapbooking Fanatics on a monthly basis. A book club, card makers club, craft night, our senior safety series, and we're currently offering 6 new Tai Chi courses. It is also really important to us to partner with other businesses and organizations in our community and invite them in to share their knowledge and expertise with our members. As a result of that, we are now offering support groups out of the Viner Center for Alzheimer's, 3 separate support groups for Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, mental health support group, and grandparents who parent in partnership with Bridges. We plan regular fun events, including our Spring Tea and Fashion Show last year with our Glammy Grammys. Our trivia night, we had a speed dating evening in January, very well attended, dances and craft nights. And we heard very, very loud and clear that our members in the community wanted day bus trips, so we were able to start offering them in 2023. And we had our very first overnight trip to Moose Jaw in 2025, and I'm pleased to inform you that all of our bus trips have sold out. We always love to hear about the impact our activities have on our members. One of our members said, "Thanks to you and the sponsors of this program, it was so nice to be among people my age, as most of my time is spent running the grandsons around. I've adopted 3 boys. I've missed people my age to chat with, and this event was very needed for to help my bucket list. My boys have mental health issues, and sometimes a break like this really helps me get through the week." We were very lucky to have many of the volunteers that were active while the city operated the Viner Center stay with us. And as we expanded our programs and services, we also expanded the number of our volunteers graciously giving us their time to contribute to the well-being of their peers. And to show our thanks, we offer many volunteer appreciation events, including our annual volunteer barbecue in the summer. We have a brunch during Volunteer Week, and of course, our Christmas banquet. We also ensure that, well, I don't, our volunteer coordinator handwrites birthday and Christmas cards and hand makes all of Christmas ornaments for all of our volunteers. We ensure we highlight one of our volunteers in a spotlight in our Unison news, as well as our e-newsletter sent to over 2,000 members. We host regular meetings with our volunteers to ensure open communication, and we give them some for refreshments so that they like to come and hang out with us, as well as 50% off memberships. As I said, ensuring Meals on Wheels continue to operate with no disruption. When we took over operations, we had 7 routes delivering approximately 90 hot meals a day with 35 volunteers. In 2024, we were forced to add an 8th route as we were not able to serve the food in food safe guidelines with only 7. And we are currently working on a 9th route as numbers have expanded that much. We are currently averaging 155 hot meals a day. We had a family member share with us, one of our long-term Meals on Wheels members, clients. This individual was faced with numerous health challenges throughout her time receiving meals. From a volunteer driver's perspective, her situation was one of sadness and self-neglect. Considering her family resided outside the country, this individual was often alone without any outside supports or connection. It was her family who reached out to express their genuine appreciation for our service. They recognized the impact of our home-delivered meals had for their mom. "Your program saves lives and is the most important part of my mom's daily routine. You do amazing work. Thank you." Our bistro is absolutely amazing. We have increased our sales over double since taking over operations in 2021. We have our daily lunch specials. We are open for supper on Tuesdays and Thursday evenings. And the 3rd Wednesday of every month, we have our theme night supper. And we ensure that all of our entrees are delicious. We have fresh salads, sandwiches, snacks, and desserts. Thanks to a generous bequeath by the late Eva Rath, we were able to upgrade the existing patio and turn it into an oasis that is available in spring, summer, and early fall. And because it's so beautiful out there, we got the bistro licensed. But one of our main goals was to ensure that we were offering services to all of the older adults and seniors in our community. And at that time, we decided to expand services beyond the Viner Center. This time, we have the Viner Vintage Transport. This is a door-to-door transportation for seniors who no longer drive, cannot drive in the winter, or lack family and friends for support. The volunteers that are connected to make these rides foster relationships, with some clients requesting specific and favorite volunteers. Our priority focus is medical appointments and necessary appointments like dental, banking, legal, and access to the Viner Center programs to ensure there is no social isolation. Eligibility and costs for the Viner Vintage Transport, age 50 plus. They don't have any accessible transportation options or are unable to drive in the winter. If their income is under $25,000 a year, it's $5 per ride. That's pick up at their home, take them to their appointments, and deliver them back to their house. Over $25,000 to $36,000 is $10 a ride. One of our Viner Vintage Transport clients, with losing my sight, I was a little afraid of getting in vehicles and relying on people to trust that they will take me where I need to go. But with Viner Vintage Transport, the drivers make me feel so safe, and I know I can depend on them to get me to and from my appointments safely. This means everything to me. We also formalized our senior support program. Senior Supports is a free information and referral service for all individuals 50 plus. It is available by appointment or drop-in, and this service ensures seniors receive the support to age comfortably in Medicine Hat and surrounding area. We help with the Guaranteed Income Supplement, OAS, CPP, Senior Special Needs Assistant, housing forms, and any other form they may need support in filling out. We also have an amazing partnership with the Root Cellar, and we have food donations daily from them in our Thrive Food Market to ensure that our low-income seniors have access to quality food. We took over the elder abuse case management contract for Medicine Hat Family Services. We offer case management and outreach for seniors experiencing abuse. This includes intervention, advocacy, and support based on identified needs. We offer the Senior Safety Series, workshops to provide valuable information to seniors based on trends observed in the Elder Abuse Case Management Program. We're trying to shift the focus from intervention to prevention with Senior Safety Series. On November 21st, 2024, we had 16 individuals attend. We had the Medicine Hat Women's Shelter, Safe Families Intervention Team, and Victim Assistance Units, and the Stenari Center. February 20th, 2025, we had 51 attend the Senior Safety Series. Cameron J. Kemp Law Office, Extended Family Services and Doula, Service Canada, and Citizen Service Branch attended and provided presentations. May 15th, we had 32 in attendance with Performance Fitness Services, Recovery Alberta and Mental Health Wellness, Alberta Health Services, Nutrition. June 19th, for World Elder Abuse Awareness Day, we have the lovely Chantal Ottenbright coming in to do a presentation on It's Not Right. August 21st, we have a variety of speakers coming in to focus on frauds and scams, and November 20th, our focus will be on Family Violence Prevention Month. We were also awarded a contract for Safe Spaces. This program provides a safe space in existing housing facilities away from the risk of an abuse or abusive situation, so the older adult can work with an elder abuse case manager to determine needs, next steps, and future living arrangements, and access supports such as safety planning, counseling, healthcare, and other community resources. Since we've been awarded this contract, we have had to place 2 individuals. And I'm very excited to announce that we have Unison Connect at Viner Center. This is a social prescribing program. This program ensures our healthcare providers can focus on the medical needs of older adults, and they can refer to us to address the social needs. This program is available for 50 plus, does require a referral from a healthcare provider, and is available for residents of Medicine Hat and surrounding area. We launched the program in December 2024, and as you can see, we started taking referrals January 1st, and by May 15th have already received 76 referrals. Comment from one of our healthcare providers: I think this program is so great and something that has been lacking in our community. We see the impacts of these things every day in our work, and so I commend you all for this project, as I know it will positively impact so many members of our community. Looking forward to hearing more about it in the future. I'm also very pleased to say Unison Society as a whole decided to undergo accreditation, and we are pleased to announce we were officially accredited for our programs in Medicine Hat in September of 2024 with a 100% score. So not only are we celebrating Seniors Week this week, we are also celebrating the 50 amazing years for the Viner Center. And this would absolutely not be possible if the city had not operated the Viner Center for the first 46 years. So thank you very much for all the hard work that the city of Medicine Hat put in and letting us take over and celebrate and take all the credit. No, I'm kidding. But letting us celebrate. And we plan to celebrate this occasion for the entire year with a variety of celebrations and reminders. So I'm pleased to let you know that we created a special partnership with the Medicine Hat Brew Company, and they graciously created a 50th anniversary beer label and renamed one of their premium lagers Vintage 75 for the Viner Center. You can find this beer at Medicine Hat Brew Co. and anywhere else that sells Medicine Hat Brew Co. beer, including the Viner Center Bistro. And special thanks to Michelle Winger for allowing us to use 13 of her watercolor artworks to create a 50th anniversary calendar featuring 13 of our local landmarks. And we've already started our celebration by offering a celebration to all our current and past volunteers. On April 26, 2024, we had an amazing meal. We invited our current volunteers, past volunteers, including all that we could find that volunteered with the City of Medicine Hat. We had 160 in attendance, and Sean Lacomer, a comedian from Saskatchewan, entertained our volunteers. We also want to make sure all our members know that we would not be here unless for 50 years unless we had them coming through the door. We have a very large membership appreciation gala planned for December 6, 2025 with a band. As we celebrate Seniors Week, we've got a lot of great activities planned down at the Viner Center. Unfortunately, our jigsaw puzzle contest had to be postponed until the fall because we didn't have enough registrants. Unfortunately, I think we set the cutoff date a little too early. Everybody came in after the cutoff to register. But we do have some exciting things coming up. One of the things I'm most excited about is Victor the Viper of Viner. This year we want to celebrate with the community as well, and so we are pleased to welcome Victor the Viper of Viner Center. And we're encouraging everyone, young and old, to paint a beautiful rock and add it to Victor down at the playground outside of the Viner Center. We have already invited the schools near us to paint rocks and walk down to add to Victor. We've reached out to the YMCA and are hoping they will participate during their summer day camps this summer. Strathcona Art Studio, members of the Viner Center, is getting on board as well. They're painting rocks to add to Victor. And we've already set up a painting table in the bistro Thursday and Friday of last week. It will be set up for the rest of this week so our members can show their creativity. We've currently had 48 rocks painted in the bistro. So let's see how long we can get Victor to be by the end of September. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Corey. Would you like to introduce the two people with you?
I would love to.
Okay.
So Larry Matheson, CEO and President, came down from Calgary today to spend some time with us down at the Viner Center and to be here this evening. And Gord Knott is our board member representative from Medicine Hat that sits on the board of directors for Unison Society in Calgary.
Thank you. Councillor Hyder.
Thank you to the chair. Gord, you better stand up. You're supposed to stand up. There you are. You're allowed to, did you want to say something, Gord?
Yes, I believe Gord had a few words, if it's okay
Okay,
with
yeah, go ahead.
I'll wait.
Yeah.
I'll
Your
wait.
worship.
Yeah,
Thank
go
you.
ahead, Gord.
Got me beat for the time.
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Good evening, everybody. It seems like only yesterday that I was standing here as we were negotiating and planning for the center, the new center as we have it today. And that was 10 years ago, 10, 11 years ago. And it was a great, there were many challenges, as some of you sitting there would know. We did have some discussions. I would like to take this time, I'm so pleased to be here tonight, to officially, formally thank administration and council for you recommending my election to the Board of Directors. What this has done for me, it's fulfilled my desire to continue advocating on behalf of older adults, not only in our community, but in the wider community, Calgary and an area. So thank you very much for that. Corey just shared you statistics that reflect great success story of the operation of the center over the past 4 years. In my position as the Medicine Hats board member, I measure success a little differently. In my weekly visits to the center, the minute I walk through that door, I feel an immediate sense of vibrancy and, as I call it, a buzz. Whether it's in the bistro at lunchtime or observing small groups in action, there's a feeling of enjoyment and socializing. The many activities, some of which are very innovative, that Corey and her staff provide is the foundation for that atmosphere. And I can tell you that they have raised the bar to a very exciting high level. There is a reason, quite frankly, why we have 1,700 plus members, many of whom I call junior seniors, and we are ever so grateful for the many hours our couple of hundred volunteers share. Without them working the front lines, many of the great things happening at the center would be in jeopardy. As mentioned, we are celebrating our 50th anniversary of the Viner Center, the center being the hub of activities of all older adults in our community. We have this wonderful gem in our community, that being the center. The new facility and the programming within it is the envy of numerous other centers in the province. And I'm even going to be as bold enough to say that might even include the Kirby Center in Calgary. I might pay for that comment later, as that is where Larry hangs his hat, so I got to be careful there. But anyway, we also have good numbers of retired folks relocating to Medicine Hat. And some of the good reasoning for that is what we offer to our older adults here in the community. For the past years, the Viner Center has been managed by city administration. I see our 50th as a great opportunity for all of you to help us celebrate and share the many success stories of years gone by. I would love nothing more than to have each one of you drop by and experience that buzz that I'm talking about for yourselves as we strive to help older adults in our community, in this wonderful community, enjoy the best lifestyle possible. And of course, I'm sure Corey would also welcome any financial support to help with the celebrations planned. The bottom line of all that I have shared here tonight is this: the operation of the Viner Center is in great hands, thanks to Corey and her great staff. I want to thank you folks for your ongoing support, and I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to share these few words with you here tonight. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Councillor Hyder. You didn't actually get to ask your
Well, yeah,
question yet,
because
so.
Gord wanted to talk, and when Gord wants to talk, you have to listen, right? Through the chair, thank you, Mayor Clark. Corey, wonderful job. You're always a leader wherever you land, and you've done a wonderful job down there. I've had the opportunity to go down to the Viner Center a few times, and it is a buzz, and it's, I'm happy for you. I'm happy for the community. It's just a great place to feel like you belong, like you said. The Meals on Wheels program, I can't say enough about it. We've used it in our life with Mom. And it is that connection that sometimes people don't get day to day when they're on their own. So kudos to all the work you do, the volunteers and the programs. So thank you.
Councillor Robbins.
Thank you, and through the chair. Thanks for coming down, Larry, first of all, to check things out and hang out with us in the evening. Appreciate you very much and your support of our little center down here in Medicine Hat. And one of my favorite older adults in the whole world, Gord Knott, thanks for sharing your words today. It's nice to hear from people who are talking to the seniors, you know, as one of them, who gives us really good information, and also the historic perspective of what's happened to lead us to this great point. And so, Corey, I want to thank you, of course, for your leadership. I've been at the Viner Center many times. I always feel extremely welcome as soon as I walk in the door. And it's not because anyone knows it's me. There's like, oh, you know, like it's like random person just walks in, but yet I'm greeted like I should be there. And I want to thank you particularly for solving a dilemma in my personal life, because my children, like the Viner Center Park is our park. They named it Gabby's Park anyway. So that's the one they always loved to go to when they were kids, and they came back not that long ago and we're talking about all these painted rocks and how great it was, and I'm like, what are you talking about? So now I know the name and what it's about, and I'm gonna get them to paint some things, because the nicest part of it is this how it works. You paint it and then you bring it in and then it gets sort of shellacked or something. I love that then the kids are coming in the door and saying hi. And so I will definitely get my kids to do that this summer before we leave on our big holiday. And when I get back from my big holiday, I look forward to being a member of the Viner Center myself and doing some volunteering there as well. The volunteers are the heart of the staff, of course, but your volunteers are everything, and they're so creative and so kind, and I would love to be part of that group. So thank you for sharing your great story again.
Councillor Dumanowski.
Yeah, through the chair, thank you to everyone for coming forward today. I certainly have had, through this role, over the many years of being here, had the privilege, it really has been a privilege to be connected to the Viner Center, also known as Unison. For me, interestingly enough, a very useless fact, but a sentimental one, I just realized after identifying it as 50 years, my brother and I actually were in ECS in the Viner Center in its inaugural year. In the second half of that inaugural year, I actually attended early childhood services there at age 4, so I won't tell you how old I am, but you can probably do the math. And with Mrs. Cote, and wow, I'm actually emotional about that, I really am. Certainly over the years, the Viner Center has had to deal with lots of challenges from, declining participation. We had COVID, we had the flood, we had multiple flood issues, and then we had to identify the priority that it is, and certainly was, to rebuild. And to see what has come of it is absolutely incredible. And I mean that. When I look at all the projects you do, and I certainly am educated to that tonight, there's nothing you haven't put your finger on. You really are, I couldn't think of one if you paid me right now. You've touched on every piece, and I know you got more ideas in your mind, so bring those forward. I mean, I can see why your participation is going up. So to close, I too, Mr. Knott, Gord, I remember Mrs. Noble and others from back in the day. You guys have been passionate fighters for that facility, and so as much as we have incredible staff, and I certainly don't dismiss staff and membership of Unison here, it's people like you who really were and are the champions of that facility, because we wouldn't be able to celebrate it today if it wasn't for people like you, and that's the facts. So I thank you very personally for that. And I'll close by saying I hope someday, very soon, because I do meet the hurdle rate for the age to participate. When I have more time in my life, I promise I will get a membership and it'll be a full circle. Thank you and congratulations.
You are what I call one of my junior seniors.
Which one hint of that was he called kindergarten ECS. Counselor Van Dyke.
Yes, thank you through the chair. So I don't think that it's any secret that when operations of the Viner Center moved over to Unison, that I was apprehensive about it. I had big concerns about what kind of programming would be offered, if it would be equivalent to what was currently being offered through the city, if it would be meeting the needs of the seniors in the community. And so I'm very happy to have been proven wrong and pleased with the great work that you guys have been doing down there for the last few years. It's a beautiful facility and you offer excellent programming, and I know from my day job, part of my life, that you work collaboratively with a lot of organizations in the community to offer services to seniors in the community, and I think that's so valuable. I'm so impressed with the Meals on Wheels program and how important that is to maintaining food security in our community. And for people who may not be aware, you do not have to be a senior to use Meals on Wheels. So if you are getting out of the hospital and you need meals after you get out, or you've just had a baby and you need someone to be bringing you meals, you can access that service as well. And again, wonderful staff and amazing volunteers, and I'm not just saying that because my daughter's been a volunteer there for several years and will be back this summer. But I'm just very impressed with your work and the caliber of the programming that you provide there. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I don't see any further speakers. Of course, ditto everything that's been said. Thank you so much for all of your work and your constant creativity and continuous improvement. It's exceptional. Thank you. Thank you. Just a little housekeeping. When we postponed the legal fees, I should have said postpone to the next meeting. I didn't. And I'm just wondering if anyone would like to make a motion to move the Destination Marketing Organization presentation up to the agenda.
I can make that motion.
So we'll deal with that next.
Please.
Okay,
And I'll second, yeah.
Okay. We'll vote on that. That's unanimous, and I see, yes, there you are, Jace. So for destination marketing, we have the 2024 annual report. We have Jace Anderson, who is the executive director of Destination Marketing Organization, often referred to as Tourism Medicine Hat. And we're very happy to have him.
Good evening. Thank you. It is an absolute pleasure to be here. On behalf of our industry-led nonprofit board of directors, mayor, council, administration, friends, and residents of Medicine Hat, I am proud and fortunate to bring greetings and good evenings from our board of directors and from our team who may be dialing in from home or may be catching up on a little bit of sleep. It's been a very busy few months. Few years, actually. It just continues to compound a little bit. And so with that in mind, I've been assured that I should likely keep this under an hour. And so I am going to start with 50 minutes of prepared notes, and then I'll give you just a little window to, no, I'll reverse that. I'll try very hard to be 7 minutes or less. It's 9 slides, and some of them we'll just look at as I click through, like we're looking at family travel photos. I'm going to ask all of you to think about 2 numbers over the course of the next 7 or so minutes. The number 190 and the number 266. And just see if those jump out at you at some point as we go. And as this is an annual experience for me, and you guys, your team here are fantastic. This worked exactly the way I'd imagined. We acknowledge, first of all, Medicine Hat and Southeast Alberta are situated on traditional lands, that we are here now and we hold ourselves accountable, that we seek to continue opening space for mindful dialogue and learning with those we partner with, work with, and those we host. We strive to learn continually, and in doing so, we recognize that we'll make mistakes. We commit to owning those mistakes, taking responsibility, and learning from them. That is really the root and the heart of our land acknowledgement, and we have that on our website, and that informs us as a team and as a board as we navigate and make plans for our future. I'm excited to be able to provide some of the guiding principles and approach, and these are some of the things that we have perhaps talked about year in and year out as they mature and take on the sort of the framework that our industry-led board of directors have led us through. And really, it speaks to the fact that our vision, Medicine Hat DMO is a trusted partner in promoting Medicine Hat's tourism experience. And our pillars that we center in that work include 2 research and data-driven sort of lenses that help us inform how we see the community, because it helps us understand how our community sees itself, which has been really important in the rooting of authenticity that gives us the work we do. The first is that outdoor experience. It's 330 days of sunshine, and I will absolutely take the entire hour if I start to list all of the different ways we celebrate that outdoor experience in Medicine Hat and Southeast Alberta. So I'll let you picture those as we move forward. The second pillar for us is that emerging creativity and cultural experience. It centers then, and we recognize we have 4 nodes that we pay particular attention to when we're looking at collaborative opportunities, and we're looking at building out narratives that speak to larger long-haul visitation. The first is Medelta in the historic Clay District. That really is the jewel in our crown, and really some might say that this city was built on the mud and the clay that industry and that economic opportunity afforded our region. The second is Medicine Hat's historic downtown. The third is Echodale Regional Park. And the fourth is Elkwater Hidden Valley Ski Resort and the Cypress Hills Interprovincial Park. An industry mentor of mine, Maura Gast, in 2009, giving a presentation at Destinations International, really spoke about this wheel. I've included the quote that she gave a number of times because it centers us in where we intersect with economic development. The reason I love this wheel is, and the general premise is, as a community vitality wheel, if you build a place where people want to live, then you'll build a place where people want to work. When you build a place where people want to work, then you have built a place where people seek to invest. And when you've built a place where people are looking to invest, then you've built a place that people need to visit. That is a flywheel that continues to, it doesn't matter where we intersect with that, whether our first touch with the community, this community we know and love, is because we were driving through, or we visiting friends and relatives, or we're here for work. It is the opportunity to fall in love with the people in the place, and so it all starts with a visit. That's the new pump track. Kudos. The city continues to make strong investments in destination development. The new pump track, which is near Gas City Campground, it reinforces that family-friendly, accessible nature of our Southeast Alberta region, and it's being centered as a biking destination. But it's not the only thing. It's a beautiful photo, and it centers on an intentional investment that has been made around this horseshoe and through this community and through the work that you do. We talk about 190 kilometers of trails in our city network. That's exciting because not so many years ago, we were talking about 155 kilometers of trails. And we continue to see people reach out to us online or stop in at the Visitor Information Center and talk to us about that because it has a remarkable, compelling lure. Talks to the increase and the investment in disc golf and all of these other both outdoor attributes and facilities that are suitable for sport and event hosting. Again, if I had an hour, I'd give you an exhaustive list and miss something, I'm sure. I read recently the term radical collaboration. I haven't completely unpacked it, but I scribbled it down in the margins of a notebook and I scribbled it down in the margins of my notes here. I don't even know where I'm going to fit it in. So let's consider that the spot that I just slid that term through. This is our historic downtown. And this is a year in review look at a number of aspects, one of which was Historic Downtown's great big giveaway. We leveraged a particular immediate economic need and hardship being felt by downtown business operators last summer. And in August, we were fortunate to partner with Community Futures Entrecourt, who made a financial contribution to allow us to launch a sales-driven campaign. So much of what we do in tourism is the front end of the funnel, the awareness consideration. We don't always get to be active in that conversion space because that's where our business partners operate. But that campaign last year created an environment where we had 43 downtown businesses participating. And over the course of the month of August, we saw some remarkable, encouraging, and frankly, just market necessary responses that we were eager to be a part of, and we were fortunate that we had the partners and the collaboration that allowed us to do that. One of the other elements in our report is the Medicine Hat road detail map that we have. And we're excited this year that the thought dawned on us after 11 years in so far. We took the Southeast Alberta regional map that we also print, and we put it on the back of the Medicine Hat map. And so now when we're at the counter, when we were visiting with the 16,000 people who come through the Visitor Information Center, handing them a map for the city, a map for the trails, a map for the road names, a map for the Southeast Alberta region, it's all on one single piece of paper. It's almost like over time, we're starting to figure this out. And so that's encouraging, to say the least. Southeast Alberta Regional Alignment and our year in review, those are Red Rock Coolies, and they fill my soul. And when I had the opportunity to present this slide deck to Public Services Committee, I talked about the fact that our friends at Police Point Park were offering a guided tour of Red Rock Coulee in late May. And it is a reminder to me that I just would passionately love to be a part of setting up a food and drink, a culinary experience out on site. And I think about the dinner in the kiln that we've created by partnering with Medelta, and to be able to do something in that space and in such a way that not only benefits the locals who get to participate, very limited seating, 48 or so tickets, but it's inspirational to the people who are watching from afar and getting a sense of who we are as a community. And so it's the work that we do from an economic sales perspective on both ends of that funnel that I talked about, and any good funnel narrows and tapers to where the conversion happens, where the dollar is spent. But it's the top end of the funnel when people are seeing it and they're contemplating and they're being made aware not only of where we are on the map, but of who we are as a community, rooted in authenticity and what we offer. There's some other things on my notes here, but I want to jump to the next photograph because this is beautiful too, so I'm going to skip ahead. 266 trips we facilitated on our Sunshine Trolleys in 2024, by far the biggest number that we've seen. That meant we had 83 public loop tours through our summer months, our peak summer months last year, and those saw 95% ridership. Those are ticketed, reserved, sold. It's very quickly, I say quickly, it's been 5 years. It is clearly, whether it's been quick or not, it has clearly become a visual icon to some degree for who we are as a community and how we see our community through the eyes of the visitor, even when we're local. It is big numbers and big impact. It's a beautiful thing. And on behalf of the team that I am fortunate to work with, these are the sorts of efforts that continue to put an almost daily smile on our faces because we see the smile on the visitors' faces of all ages. That's the quote we put on this report, I think 11 years ago. I ponder every year if maybe perhaps there should be another quote. There's probably a better one. But destinations are the heartbeat of travel and tourism, and DMOs are in the inspiration business. If I were to add to that quote myself, I would remind all of you, like I remind myself on a regular basis, that we are operating at the intersection of visitation and economic impact. And it is with that lens that we do all of the work that we do. So I gave you two numbers. I tried to underline them verbally. Really quickly, I'll close with just a beautiful phone call. I might have talked with you one-on-one and shared the call, but it's something that matters to me because it's an example of the work that we do, the impact that we bring, the value that we represent on behalf of the community, in addition to cultural or economic or otherwise. I received a phone call from a woman in the community, and she wanted to talk to me about some of the decisions we're making, some of the things we're doing to promote the community. She had some input, some feedback. She'd given it some thought. And I just appreciated the opportunity to have the conversation. We navigated through the conversation. It was a welcome call. And at the end, she just dropped the nugget. She saved the lead to the very end. And she said, regardless of everything I said, she might have said irregardless. That's my favorite word. But she said, regardless of everything we've just talked about, I showed your magazine to my grandkids, and this is the first summer it's going to be easy to get them to come down for a week. And I thought, I won't because it's attached, it's bolted with bolts, but I would drop the mic on that one. It was a beautiful reminder that what we're doing has impacts and value to the community in ways that we might not even have thought of, frankly, when we were building the outward presentation of who we see ourselves as a community. It is my pleasure to present our 2024 annual report, which you have had in front of you, which our friends in administration have reviewed, and I would welcome any questions you might have while I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that wonderful presentation, Jace. The pictures are lovely, obviously. The DMO is such a great partner, not just to us, but also you think about how, like last summer, and I assume this summer, maybe even spring throughout summer, there's always something going on in the community, and you're kind of a mouthpiece for those things as well. If you flip through the tourism guide, it's got the balloons in there, it's got festivals in there, and that's just ordinary people in our community putting in the time and having the passion to make something happen that's good in our community. And I appreciate that you use your voice to help make those events a success. And so much appreciated, and also your work with Community Foundation is excellent. Councillor Van Dyke.
Yes, thank you through the chair. So I don't think we could have a more enthusiastic ambassador for the City of Medicine Hat than you are, Jace. I really appreciate your work and the work of your staff and the promotional materials available. As I've said before, I will go fill up a bag to give to people coming to the city. It really helps put our best foot forward when people are visiting the community for the first time or coming back to visit. My only question is what's on the horizon? So you guys always have a little something in the works, building on an existing industry or an existing recreational option in the city that you're going to enhance. So is there something that you're working on right now that you can tell us about?
Yeah, absolutely. To keep that under an hour too, right? We're still working in that constraint. We are actively looking to secure another Sunshine Trolley. 266 trips is a lot, and that's the recognition that in peak days, that's multiple trips over the course of a day. And we found that in December of last year, we ran 40 plus booked, sold out loops. And we would have ran more if we had another vehicle. If we had two vehicles, we would have been able to serve more. I've got a group of 16 people coming in from a small community in Alberta, and they've booked 16 seats on one of our trolley loops later this month. Now, I don't know if they're coming as a group of 16 family and friends for the trolley, or if they're coming for another reason and taking advantage of the fact that we have the trolley. At the end of the day, that doesn't matter to me. Analytically, I'm curious, but the outcome is the same. They're in our community, and we've given them something that they can go home and remember. And so to answer your question really quickly, it's absolutely another trolley. There's other things that we have some economic focus on. And then it's strategically leaning in. It's recognizing throughout 2024, we saw again some really beautiful increases in numbers. And we have, in the first 5 months of this year, already identified where in that space we can not just stretch and reach to do it again, but continue to push forward. And so that's how I would respond to that. Thank you.
I want to apologize. I said community foundation, I think. Another amazing community organization, but it was Community Futures that you said, so I
Radical
apologize.
collaboration, radical collaboration. I will continue to welcome partnering with both of those and other groups as well. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Hyder.
Thank you, Mayor Clark, and through the chair, Jace Anderson. I'm fortunate to call you a friend, and the community of Medicine Hat is fortunate to have you as an ambassador. As Councillor Van Dyke said, you are exactly what this city needs, and you've done it for many years. So thank you for all your hard work and your team's work in making our community better and brighter. If anyone gets an opportunity to have a coffee with Jace, it's much worth your while. So I appreciate it, Jace. Thank you.
All right, I don't see any further questions. So with that, I give you my thanks and have a good evening.
Thank you so much.
The next item is 10.2, appointment of returning and substitute returning officer. Can I get a motion? This is with respect to the election coming up.
I can make that. I move that council approves the appointment of Tara Lynn Asrud, the city clerk, as the returning officer, section 13, subsection 1 of the Local Authorities Election Act, and section 45 of the AO or bylaw. The appointment of Andreas Cardona Arias, I'm not sure if I said that right, the chief electoral officer as the substitute returning officer, section 13, subsection 2.1 of the Local Authorities Election Act.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion? We will vote on the resolution regarding returning officers. That is unanimous. Oh, sorry?
Nothing, I just said my apologies for her appointment. It's a lot of work.
Oh, okay. 10.3, election resolutions to improve accessibility. Can I have a motion, please?
You can. I move the council approves holding an advance vote as mandated by the Local Authorities Election Act, Local Authorities Election Act, Section 73, subsection 2 and subsection 3, the provision of assistance to electors who are unable to attend at a voting station due to disability as permitted by the Local Authorities Election Act, Local Authorities Election Act, Section 79, an authorization of the returning officer to designate the location of one or more institutional voting stations as permitted by the Local Authorities Election Act, Local Authorities Election Act, Section 80, and the provision of the special ballots, and provide that the application for special ballots made by one or more of the following methods as permitted by the Local Authorities Election Act: A, in person, B, by email, and C, in writing.
I'll second.
Thank you very much. And that was great reading. That's a very long motion. So we will, unless there's any discussion, we will vote on the resolution. And that too is unanimous. I'm not sure if I waited long enough last time on the vote, but now we are at item 10.4, which is here for first reading only. It's bylaw 4851, residential tax exemption bylaw. Can I have a motion?
I'll move that council considers first reading of bylaw 4851, the residential tax exemption bylaw.
I'll second that.
And we will vote on first reading. And that is unanimous. 11.2 is the property tax exemption refund. And this item is sponsored by Corporate Services. So let's get a motion on the table.
Your worship, I move that council approves the municipal tax refund in the amount of $1,992.18 for unit number 4 of 32 Little Way Southwest, representing the 2024 property tax exemption used for school purposes.
I'll second it.
Okay, any discussion on this one? Okay, seeing none, we'll vote on the motion. That's unanimous. Item 11.3, special transit review. This item is sponsored by Public Services and it is for information only. We have with us Gord Dykstra, Manager of Transit Services, and Lee Presteco, who is the Director of Community Services. Oh, why can't I remember that right now? Community Development, sorry about that. Here to provide us with a presentation.
Thank you for the opportunity to present tonight and to speak to you about the special transit review. Gord Dykstra, our transit manager, will walk through the work that was done. I just want to take a moment to thank all of the community members who were part of the engagement. It was very important for us to hear directly from them what they were looking for from the service so that we might make improvements. Tonight you will hear more about that review and what we learned from it. This is an overview. We will come back to council with an updated policy that we'll be looking for your approval from in the next few months. So this is a backgrounder for you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be with you this evening. It's kind of an exciting night. It was very positive, a lot of positives, and happy to be part of it. Recently, Transit completed a special transit review, and just like to take a few minutes to give you an overview of the results of that review and tell you what's happening next. So thanks very much for having me. Special transit is part of two pieces of transit in Medicine Hat. Specialized transit service is provided for people who are unable to use the regular fixed route transit system. And we provide citywide coverage with 7 vehicles Monday to Friday, 2 on Saturday. Users of special transit must apply. They must register and be approved, and then call to book a trip with some flexibility. And we try to get more than one person on the vehicle at a time. You're allowed to book up to 24 hours and up to 2 weeks in advance. And we provide wheelchair assistance. Thank you. Our first priority is dialysis patients. That tends to focus on peak travel periods, morning, middle of the day, and evening. And so we recently added a shift with council support in February to improve the service during those peak periods. We don't currently offer Sunday service. So that's a little bit of background for you. Why conduct a review? Well, the policy has been in place since 2008, and there were some gaps that developed over time between the policy and actual procedure. We do want to continue to improve the system. We have concerns about safety, and touching base with the users and the community stakeholders was very important. So clarity, hearing from the customers, the users, and from the drivers, and from peer agencies offering the same type of service was needed. Clarity was needed around a number of issues that have changed. Dynamics have changed over the last decade. One example would be curb to curb versus door-to-door service. Another example would be how much support should a user get from a driver, for example. We had concerns around weight and size that weren't addressed in the current policy, and we wanted to ensure we continued to maintain driver safety as we'd seen some impact on that over the past few years. So the review had several components: current policy and procedures, strengths and challenges of current service levels. We surveyed industry best practices. We gathered public input and shared experiences. And we also talked to the transit operators, find out what their perspective was. And then we looked at what actionable things we could do to pull all of those things together: the peer review, the driver concerns, the client concerns, and the community stakeholder concerns. We did find some inconsistencies between policy and actual practice, in the areas of functional assessment and recertification, the process of registering for the service, the span of service, charter services, which are mentioned in the old policy, and we don't really do much anymore of those things. No-show client consequences, let's say, and then again the relationship between door-to-door and curb-to-curb. So clients told us that there were some inconsistencies, that they would like to hear clearly from us about how we run the system, and they also indicated a desire for more flexible booking options. Consistency and availability, ability to book the same day. Spontaneous trip availability was highlighted. Availability on evenings, weekends, and holidays. And then we have this relationship with our customers around trip time. You book a time, we don't come exactly then, we might come a little early, a little later. They wanted us to communicate a little more clearly around those things, and then just their understanding of our policies in general. The consultant gave us a number of recommendations. The final report, he broke down into 6 broad areas, and I'll go over those quickly in a little bit more detail. The first was administrative. He recommended a renaming of the service because the word special has negative connotations for some people. He recommended that we designate a lead supervisor to oversee the special transit service in particular, that we formalize an appeals process, and update the policy, of course, and that we develop an advisory committee. We do believe that WJAI, the Working Group for Accessibility and Inclusion, will be able to function in that regard. In terms of eligibility, clarify personal and attendant requirements. Currently, we require an attendant for entry and exit of the vehicle if that's the kind of support that the person needs, but that does put a burden on the drivers, and it gives a little bit less support for the people who are traveling, and so they recommended we clarify that so that it's required for the entire trip when it's needed. Third-party functional assessments were a recommendation. It's industry standard that a third party who's trained in occupational therapy or physical therapy and has also become familiar with the transit needs and the requirements for the abilities of those clients be engaged to assess their ability to travel on special transit, and also that the potential for travel training be offered for those who are capable of traveling on the fixed route system. And so we're looking at those. Because of the fact that some clients have been with us for an extended period of time without having to renew their certification, they recommended the recertification of clients once we have the third-party assessment in place. We have the ability for clients to book online now. We haven't turned it on, and they recommend that we do that to give some independence to clients in terms of booking their own trips. Callback option if a trip becomes available. Some clarity on the penalties if we show up and you're not there. And the introduction of same-day booking for more spontaneous trips. I should skip that one. Reduced prioritization of subscription trips. So we have a tension in special transit between those trips that are casual and those trips that occur repeatedly, work or school or treatment of various kinds. And which of those kinds of trips, casual trips for mental health or personal care, or subscription trips, recurring trips for work or school, which of those is more important is very difficult to determine, and it's not really Transit's role to do that. So he suggested a better balance between those types of trips. Also, some clarification to policy areas such as the pickup window, the span of service, and the relationship between regular transit and special transit. Opportunities for taxis to provide assistance, perhaps during peak periods, and a clear definition of service areas. Free regular transit for certified clients. That requires some sort of ID, so it's a little bit potentially sensitive. And the same fare structure, which is already in place, just not published. And then some performance targets. We're currently at about 93% on-time performance, regular to the published time we tell people when we're going to show up for their trip. Trip length targets, in other words, the length of time that a person would ride on the special transit vehicle. System productivity, we are currently at 2.6 trips per vehicle hour on average, with a high of 2.8 in 2019. That was 1.9 with a high of 2.2. So we are improving the productivity level and efficiency of the resources that you've generously given to us. And then finally, customer satisfaction surveys done on a regular basis. And we believe that the possible customer survey, but also the connection to the working group will allow us to continue to connect with the community in terms of our performance. Under development, what we've heard was published already, just to give our stakeholders some information on what we drew out of what they gave us. That happened a couple of months ago. We've assessed the recommendations. We've created a set of timelines and broken them down with rationale, and I believe you'll find that in your package. We did, as mentioned, add some additional service hours in February, and we've already seen the impact of those additional service hours on the availability of trips for people who use our service. Upcoming, you will see a policy and procedure update currently under development. We're also developing a user guide so that the people who use our service will be better educated on the changes we're making and just how to take the best advantage of the service that we offer. And then we're going to follow that timeline for accepted recommendations as we go forward. I very pleased to be able to provide special transit to the citizens of Medicine Hat. It's a values decision. It's prioritized by council in the recent budget, and we have seen the appreciation from our clients for the additional service that we provided, and there remains an additional budget item in 2026 for, once again, if we continue to see pressure to increase, that funding is already in place. I believe that's sufficient for me, and I would be happy to answer any questions from council. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Great presentation. Any Councillor Sharps?
Thank you. I actually just had one question. I think earlier in your presentation, you said there was a couple of different providers that offer the service. Do we supplement the service, or are we the only provider of special transit?
We are the only provider of special transit in Medicine Hat.
Okay, I must have misunderstood that part of the presentation.
Sorry.
Thank you. No, it was me that misunderstood. Thank you. I just wanted to make sure that there wasn't another provider and we were possibly competing with business, but it sounds like you've got the whole gamut. Perfect, thank you.
Councillor Robbins.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Clark, through the chair. I was able to hear the presentation at our public services meeting, so I just had one question. So the recommendation is to turn on the online booking. Will users still be able to call? Like they're going to be able to just pick which they're comfortable doing?
Yes, thank you. You will call. We're debating whether we also make an app available because certain users are capable of using an app. And yes, the online booking available on your desktop. All of those choices will be available.
Okay, great, thank you.
Councillor Hyder.
Thank you, Mayor Clark, and through the chair. Just appreciation, Gord, for the presentation. I heard it as well at Public Service. It's such a need in our community, and we spoke about the connection with the drivers and the clients. And again, another great support within our city that makes people feel like they belong. So thank you.
Councillor Hirsch.
Thanks for the presentation. I note in page 7 of the study, and I'll just read verbatim, the current city policy requires a functional assessment, but this is not enforced. And is recommended that City Medicine Transit contract a third party to do the functional assessments. So in one hand, I get it. We've got a humble service delivery mechanism. There is some discussion about expansion, including addition of potentially another employee to manage this. But I guess if we're going to enhance the program, the challenge I have is, shouldn't we start enforcing the functional analysis just to see, because what ends up happening is that as this grows, the demand is going to be for a person that needs and is certified as you speak to receive it. But the ones, and we've heard it within the community, that some people kind of, when they do the self-identification, perhaps they don't need it, because my struggle is I have no problems providing the service for the people that need it. And I'm just wondering your thoughts in regards to that.
When through the chair to Councillor Hirsch, when the program was originally conceived, the concept of a functional assessment was probably something as simple as your doctor said you needed it, and we had a conversation with you to determine that you had an actual disability that would not allow you to use fixed route transit. Over the last 20 years, that has developed, for the reasons you mentioned, into a third party who understands transit and is effective at assessing actual ability in order to distinguish between people who just need some training and people who truly need the system. And so when the consultant is recommending functional assessment, they are recommending a third-party functional assessment by a trained professional. And that would accomplish exactly what it is you've highlighted.
Councillor Van Dyke.
Yes, thank you through the chair. My question was also around functional assessment, but my concern's about the financial burden on people who might already be at the limit of available funds. A lot of people who use public transit use it because limitations in transportation or financial limitations. And if we are requiring people to have a functional assessment done at $75, an assessment plus an hourly rate, has anyone looked into if there is any kind of government programming? I know that with AISH, there can be additional funds for certain expenses, or are we unnecessarily burdening people that are already at their limits?
Through the chair to Councillor Van Dyke. We don't envision burdening the applicant with the cost of that assessment. As a matter of fact, the industry standard approach would be a contract to gain a reduced rate for that assessment, and actually to provide the person with transportation on the special transit system to that assessment and back. It turns out that in the larger picture, in terms of taking the resources and making sure they're targeted to the people who very much need the system, that gets us a lot farther towards that targeted user.
That's excellent. Councillor Dumanowski.
Quickly, through the chair, like others have mentioned, we saw this presentation at Public Services. I just wanted to comment on the point that, you know, the review, albeit periodically necessary, it's to derive enhancements, improvements, for the, for access for people who need that transit service. So kind of to one of the points that was made, yeah, I appreciate that, you know, the old saying, build it and they will come, but in your case, modifying it, you know, you're seeing a demand, they're coming, and so you're adapting to that demand prudently. And I think that's the way to approach this, and certainly some of the improvements that or some of the smaller details, more precise things you're looking at are going to enhance the service for ridership. So, and I know at the committee level you had mentioned special transit maybe having a stigma. So it sat in my head for a period of time, and certainly the members need to come up with a name. But I was thinking, what other word or words could be used that present meaningfully and certainly reduce any stigma, if there is any. And I thought about accessibility, so accessible transit. So I'm going to plant that seed, but thank you for the presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your answer to Councillor Van Dyke's question. If that person, it turns out they go and they get their functional assessment, and it turns out that, well, they may have some limitations, they don't qualify necessarily for special or accessible transit, is that when the education piece would come in, where, you know, maybe it's believed they can't, that our regular busing system isn't accessible enough, but through, you know, education, or, you know, maybe taking them through and saying, like, this is how you would manage that. Is that kind of the plan? I'm sorry if I missed that before.
No, thank you. That was through the chair to Mayor Clark. The vision would be that if you've received a third-party assessment and they said this person is capable of using regular transit, that at a really a much lower cost of interaction, we could even come to you with a bus and a driver who's an outgoing, friendly type person, and we could teach you how to read a schedule. We could teach you how to board a vehicle. We could teach you how the wheelchair, the ramp works, or the tie downs work, all those sorts of things, just even make you more comfortable, because the truth of the matter is that regular transit creates much more access to the city and to work and play and opportunities than accessible transit does, right? We're limited, we're time limited, we're limited number of occupants. It takes a lot more time and effort, distance to transport folks who use that service. If we could get them on regular fixed route service, the city would open up for them. And really, we would want to make that possible, if it were possible, for that individual.
Thank you very much. Excellent. Councillor Robbins.
Thank you, and through the chair. I just was going to ask almost an identical question, which is just to highlight the accessibility of the buses, that all city buses are accessible.
Yes, correct.
Thank you.
All right, we have a potential contest idea, I guess, for.
Yes.
I don't see any other further speakers. This item is just for information. So with that, thank you very much for your succinct and clear presentation, and have a good evening or night now. Thank you. Next up is 11.2, property tax exemption refund. And sorry, gang. Yeah, okay, here we are. Letters of support policy. And looky here, we have a new.
Hello, council.
We have a new presenter. Go ahead.
Hello. So currently, we don't have any formal policy or procedure in place related to letters of request, requests for letters of support. Historically, these types of requests have been considered by responsible divisions, departments, the city manager's office, or administrative committee. And then these letters were signed by the mayor on behalf of the city. So administration has identified a need to establish clear eligibility criteria and a consistent approach for evaluating and responding to requests for support to ensure a transparent, equitable, and timely process. So procedure 0186 was approved by the Administrative Committee pending council approval of policy 0186, which establishes the City Clerk Department as a central intake related to letters of support to ensure a consistent experience. Requesters will have the option of emailing the City Clerk Department or, once established, submitting a form through the city's website.
Thank you very much. I have just a couple of notes. I feel like 3.3, which says, the mayor is authorized to sign letters of support for requests that have been determined to meet the eligibility criteria. Then the eligibility criteria happen. And then at the bottom, in 4.3, it says, the mayor is authorized to sign letters of support on behalf of the City of Medicine Hat where the responsible division confirms that the eligibility criteria has been met. So those two things are inconsistent because one of them requires just if they meet the eligibility criteria, I can sign it. And then 4.3 includes that the responsible department or division has confirmed that the eligibility criteria have been met. So my concern with 4.3 would be that once in a while I'll get like a really short notice at request for letter support, and it's not always that the community group has, just been lollygagging or whatever. Sometimes the grant requests are super short, or maybe they didn't find out about it until like last minute. So like I had a 1-day turnaround on one recently, and so I'm just wondering if there is flexibility like for an urgent request, which 3.3 would allow for, but 4.3 would not allow for. Does that make? Yep. Yeah, okay.
So I'm just kidding. So we can amend the 4.3. We'll bring it back, but have something that addresses like short turnarounds. So we can bring this back. We haven't had anything in place for some time, so we want to make sure we get it right and everybody's comfortable with it. But I understand what you are sharing, and we can to meet tight timelines for sure. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I would also like to see the procedure since I'm the one signing or the deputy or acting mayor, just so that we're aware of what the procedures are and we can, we're the end signatory, but it would be helpful to know what the procedures are. And then just finally, 3.8, the word contentious. What that means could actually be quite contentious. I don't have a suggestion, like if it's being vetted through the divisions, then presumably they'll develop their own sense of what contentious means, but we all know that there's certain things that are maybe contentious, but that doesn't make them, inappropriate or, I'm just highlighting that to kind of let you think about that definitionally.
Yep, no, we will we'll wordsmith that to
well, I'm not even saying there's better words. I'm just saying it's a tricky assessment.
Okay.
Councillor Sharps.
Sorry, I just needed, I guess I wouldn't mind seeing some clarification too. I wasn't not entirely sure if the letters were not coming back to the mayor to sign or division heads, because it was a little confusing there. So division heads can sign these letters?
Not currently, no.
No, with this revised policy. Is that the intent?
No, the intent is for it to still, I believe, to still be coming through to the mayor to sign. However, yeah, the department head could, I believe it comes to the city manager right now?
No, I don't think so.
Well, if I may add a little, or try and add a little clarity, we haven't had a policy, and so it's reasonable that, it hasn't happened the exact same way every time. there have been instances where the managing director will sign for some things. Sometimes they're required to have or prefer to have counsel. But this is, I believe this is just setting up a consistent process where it always is signed by the mayor.
Yes,
Or,
Okay.
or the deputy acting.
That's what I was
whatever, yeah.
looking for. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so, yeah, can we have a motion to, review, send it back and to admin and ledge?
Yeah, I can do that.
City Manager Mitchell?
Thank you. Through the chair, we can add it to next week's admin and ledge because it'll be quite quick turnaround. Thank you.
You don't think I should make a motion? Well,
We should make a motion,
yeah, I
yeah.
think we should make a motion too. Yeah, I move that, what was that? Okay, I move that council, when's the next admin and lunch?
June 10th. June 10th.
Thank you. Postpone, or, sorry, no, not postpone.
You can just send
back.
it?
Yeah, I'm
Send
back.
back to
Send back
ALR,
policy, letters of support policy 0186 to the June 11th admin and ledge meeting.
June 10th,
June 10th, thank you.
next Tuesday. Yep.
Sorry.
Is there a seconder?
I'll second.
Thank you, and we'll vote on the motion to send it back to admin and ledge. Thank you very much, Steph.
Thank you.
Thank you, Terlyn. Oh. You can't do both things at once. Thank you. And that is unanimous. There are no current notice of motions, but on April 7th, there were a couple of things set to come back to this meeting. So I'm just wondering, do we need to make a motion to City Manager Mitchell?
Thank you. Through the chair, and we did send out an email this morning. There is some legal ramifications around those two notices of motion, so it'll be coming back to closed session, and we will have legal give advice to council on the 16th. We just need a little time for both of them.
Okay, and so that's 3 motions?
I think city manager is referring to 2, but there was 3 motions. So then the third one?
There were 2 deferrals and then,
I believe it was the Amazon external spending.
okay. So there was one that was referred to June 16th.
Okay, then that's
yeah.
what it was.
Okay, so given that there are no notice of motions and our business is completed, this meeting is adjourned.